This is Beatstars Gurus, the music marketing podcast for ambitious musicians. It's powered by Beatstars, the easiest way to sell beats, songs, albums, and keep 100% of your sales. To start selling for free today, visit Beatstars.com. Hey music makers, my name is Abe and I'm the host of the Beatstars Gurus podcast. Each week we put out podcast interviews with successful musicians, experts, and entrepreneurs that will help inspire, motivate, and give you tips to increase your sales, traffic on your Beatstars store so you can live the life that you dream of having. And this week we sit down with Gabe Schillinger of the Legion, based in the Bay Area, studio owner, mixer, engineer, music producer, and discuss how he went from being a traditional music producer into being an online dominating force in selling music online. Hey, what's up everybody? It's Abe with Beatstars, and this is the Beatstars Gurus podcast where we sit down with musicians, entrepreneurs, experts in the music field. And today we're sitting down with a special guest. We have Gabe of the Legion here, a production team out of the Bay Area. What's up, Gabe? How you doing?
What's up, Abe? Thanks for having me on.
Oh man, we're really honored to have you on, man. And of course, you know, I'm a little biased because, you know, I'm from the Bay, so I had to have one of our own guys on the show and discuss the music scene from the Bay. I've been out of the Bay for over a year and something, so I was like, I kind of miss what's happening over there, what's bubbling over there, and so you're gonna have to fill us in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, man. So let's just let's start from the beginning, man. I know you've been doing this for a long time. Been really ingrained in the Bay Area music scene as well as other markets as well. But how did you first get your first start in producing music?
Probably the first time that it sort of became serious was when I started interning at a recording studio called Tarpan Studios, which is run by a guy named Narda Michael Walden, who was a big-time producer, especially back in like the 80s and 90s. Won Producer of the Year Grammy and Album of the Year and Song of the Year, a ton of platinum albums and songs produced for Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey, all these kind of people. So when I got to start working there, that was kind of my first exposure to the actual music industry. And so that was a great kind of place to learn about, especially more sort of the traditional kind of music industry, because he, came from that a little bit more old school thing. And this was also, more than 10 years ago. So I kind of got a little glimpse of that, maybe previous ways of doing things, which I've been able to kind of carry over a little bit into the new stuff.
That's dope. Yeah, man. I mean, it's, a lot of the traditional music hubs like Los Angeles and, New York, a lot of those places still kind of function, especially the ones that really deal with the major labels on a day-to-day basis. They still, those operations, those studios and those producers, they still function in the same way they've been doing it for many, many years. And it's really cool for you to kind of, get exposed to that early on, because it's always I think it's always essential to understand the roots and understand the beginnings of how collaboration and gear and studio and sound and acoustics and all that stuff kind of originates. But would you? I mean, not every artist and not every producer gets to have that experience. Would you say that working with a producer like Narada, would you feel like that's important for, especially as a musician starting out, to have a mentor like that or have an experience like that to help them navigate early on? Do you think it was really important for you?
Yeah, it definitely helped a lot, and I understand that not everybody is going to be in that situation. It happened to be, literally 5 minutes away from where I live. He has a studio, and I sort of got lucky and called up, and I was able to go down there. So I understand it's not realistic for everybody to get that type of experience, but definitely to find mentors and to model yourself after other producers and other people that you respect, I think is super important. I mean, that's sort of the basis of everything I do is I find somebody who's good at it and then figure out what they did and try to model after it. So if you can actually have that be a two-way thing where they're working with you directly, that's that much better.
Yeah, that's dope, man. And another thing that I always when I talk to very, very young and inexperienced musicians and music producers and artists, and I always tell them, don't rush the process. Don't rush the learning process, because I think every single one of those moments is very key in building who you are as a musician. Now, when you first interned there, and really, like how did you gradually take on tasks? Did you start off with something very, very simple? Did you jump right in? What kind of advice would you give someone, that is thinking about interning at a bigger music studio? Would you tell them to, slow it down, take it day by day? What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, for me, when I started over there, I had very, very little experience, almost no experience. I had kind of been messing around making beats a little bit. I'd never used Pro Tools, or, I basically knew nothing. And the way that I approached it was just with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. So if they told me to go digging in some boxes because they needed to find something, then I attacked that, and I made sure I found that little thing they were looking for. Or if they wanted me, whatever menial task it was, I just tried to really take it seriously and prove to them and to myself that, this is something I really want to learn and something I really want to dive into. And so I guess maybe, I don't know if this is exactly answering your question, but just having that attitude of being willing to just go the extra mile and have that enthusiasm. If you're not really excited about the stuff, especially when you're first starting out, then this is probably not the thing for you to do. So if you don't naturally have some of that motor, some of that excitement to just spend all day learning something or pursuing something, then it's probably not the right job for you. And if you are super excited about it, then just jump in and put in that time and put in that extra effort, because it's going to pay off for you, because you're going to learn a lot and you're going to already start developing this reputation. People are going to know you as somebody who works hard and who's who's ready to work. And that's who people want to work with. People who are, first, that they just want to hang out with. That's super important. Just be cool. And then also, show that you're, willing and hopefully enjoy working hard. And then everything else, kind of just fits into place from there.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's great advice, man. Take it slow, be patient, and and just tackle every task with enthusiasm. That's great, man. So when I don't know if we met in person. We might have I think at a couple of the Bay Area producers conferences, possibly.
I think we did, yeah.
And that was many years ago. And I've known about you before from, of course, a really, really good friend of mine, Furious, who I love. Shout out to Furious, man. An amazing songwriter, amazing artist, and I think you've worked with him a lot in the past as well too. Now, knowing you and knowing those kind of circles that you've been working in, I've always known you to be someone that is very hands-on in the studio, working with an artist in the studio, creating, polishing, mixing, mastering, kind of being a full kind of production solution. And it was more about kind of like the in-person experience. And that's I felt like that was your main source of business. Over the course of the last couple years, I've noticed you kind of transition yourself from the traditional kind of production work into juggling that in including the online and the digital space, and creating a presence for yourself online and selling beats and licensing and other services that you offer. How has that transition been? Because it wasn't too long ago that you really were working out of your studio, and then now you're in the digital marketplace.
Right. Yeah. No. It's been interesting. It's been exciting. It's funny. I think I remember So the Bay Area Producers Conference is a conference that I help put on. It's Mario Flores is the guy who really runs it. And so we'll be in, I think, our 7th or 8th year next year. But anyways, I think I ran into you in 1 years ago, and you were telling me, oh yeah, you got to get on Beatstars, and you got to do that. And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know, and of course now I wish I had gotten on there a lot sooner.
Right.
But yeah, so I guess just to sort of go over what you're saying. So yeah, that's true. What how we started was a little bit more that traditional model where I have my studio, people would come into the studio. We did a lot of engineering, so a lot of recording, mixing, and mastering, and then also producing, but not necessarily. Sometimes people would come in with beats, from other places. Sometimes we would just sell beats, but you're right. It was a little bit more of that sort of traditional model of somebody physically shows up to the studio and leaves with some music. And so when we made that transition, which really is not long ago at all, it's maybe 2 years, really less than 2 years, that I kind of started really taking it seriously. And man, it changed my business. It changed my life, really, honestly. Like it motivated me in a new way where kind of doing that same thing over and over had gotten maybe a little bit stale or even not necessarily, but the online stuff was super exciting, and for me, it's a completely different job. Learning how to market yourself, learning how to use the different sort of technology and using the different platforms like Beatstars and YouTube and all the social media stuff. All that stuff is like its own job, and it doesn't really have to do with music. It has nothing to do with making music. It's kind of its own thing, and it's really being an entrepreneur and launching a business, which it turns out, lucky for me, I really like to do it. So that worked out because I kind of dove into that, and now I listen to a ton of business podcasts and entrepreneur podcasts and read blogs, and it's exciting to me. I like to learn about all that kind of stuff, but it's really opened up all these other opportunities. Mainly just to support myself and my team, where now we have these sources of income that just didn't exist a year or two ago.
Right.
And so that can help, kind of fuel the engine, where now it's like, for one thing, it's more motivating. It's exciting when, Nate, my production partner, comes by and we're going to work on a beat, and I can hand him a bunch of money because, hey, business is going great.
Right.
So it keeps everybody excited and motivated. And then also it's interesting too how it can kind of come full circle, where it can help with sort of that other side of maybe trying to get placements and working with artists, where we've now been approached sometimes by Boozy's manager hit us up because he saw we were high on the charts on SoundClick or whatever. And so sometimes by doing the internet stuff, you can actually get back into the other world of kind of getting placements and stuff like that. So
yeah, man,
it's really helped. Yeah, go ahead.
It's amazing. It really is. What you guys have done in the last 2 years is amazing. And I didn't want to cut you off because I didn't want to finish hearing what you're saying, but I wanted the listeners to have kind of just like an understanding of, you guys have worked with everybody from E40, French Montana, Bum B, Ray J. I mean, these are not pushovers. Like, these are big stars. And for you guys to transition your business model and start focusing online is a testament to where this industry is going, right? And so it's just super exciting to see that. And how you were saying that it's easier to get placements. I mean, just the other day, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this. This is probably, I don't know. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but De La Soul was buying beats on Beatstars just the other day, right? So it's just like, this is where it's going. This is where it's going. It's just much more efficient, much more, easier for a songwriter to get inspired and get exposed to new music from all over the world, right? They're not just pigeonholed just by the local guy, right? Your customers probably are from everywhere, right? From all over the world, and you're collaborating with musicians. You're bringing your guys' music together. It's just a magical thing that's happening right now, especially with collaboration online.
Yeah, no, it really is amazing, and that's exciting to hear. what you're saying, like with De La Soul, and and there's plenty of stories like that. There's I know like a while ago, 50 Cent had got, I think it was a track off of I think it was SoundClick or whatever, but and there's one recently, it's not coming, but big artists are on these sites, and it's I feel like almost there used to maybe be a little bit of like stigma, like, oh, you're a internet producer, like I've talked to producers who have said, oh yeah, maybe they I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was like, yeah, I see you're having some success, maybe I might try to do that, but I'd probably just like change my name online so that it wouldn't like dilute my brand or whatever, because I'm working with these big artists and stuff, and I sort of I understand where he's coming from, but I think that that's maybe the wrong way to look at it, and that it's all part of your brand, and being a quote unquote internet producer is just being a producer now, and if you have that reach, whether if it's through the sort of the newer internet side, quote unquote, or the older channels, it's sort of all the same thing. If you're reaching, if your music is reaching a large number of people and you're getting paid for it, then that's great. That's the whole point, right?
Yeah, I still don't understand the stigma, man. I still don't get it. I've worked with huge artists throughout my career as well, and working on the artist side, they're more embracing of getting their name everywhere they can, on every single site, on every single platform, right? They don't care, right? That's their motto is more exposure. That's how they sell music. That's how they get shows. And the producers, I guess the traditional producers have, it's taking a little while for them to kind of adjust their mentality as being a marketer, as being an artist, as being someone that needs to expand their brand outside of just the handshakes, because those people that they're shaking hands with are on digital platforms, right? Those people that they're collaborating with and in other places, they're living their lives digitally as well too. So the longer everyone waits to kind of start setting up shop online, it's gonna hurt them in the future for sure.
Yeah, no, like I said before, I mean, I think we've been really, really lucky that in just a couple years we've kind of been able to climb up the food chain a little bit. But man, if we had started 10 years ago, I mean, I could only imagine where we'd be at now with this. So definitely,
and we'll talk. I want to talk about that a little bit, because you'll talk to I'll talk to Grammy Award winning producers, man, like all the time, and their income stream is not even a fraction of what some of the top online producers are making, right? Not even a fraction.
I believe it.
And so for you guys to make that jump and make it so quickly and really develop, your reputation, your brand online, like what was the biggest factor you would say when jumping all in was like, what was the biggest factor in garnering that success that fast?
I think one thing for sure, and maybe this sounds obvious, is trying to have music that people like. I mean, it sounds dumb, but it's definitely, having that background of making music for so long, I think helped. Whereas maybe if you're a producer and you're brand new and this is the fourth beat you ever made in your life and you're trying to sell it, it's going to be harder for you to kind of gain that traction. So that's one thing. That's always where it should start is the music itself. But then as far as the marketing, like I said, I just kind of dove in and tried to see what people are doing. And I think what's important is to find the people who are best at it. So sometimes that's in the same industry you're in, but sometimes it's also stepping outside of that. So I definitely looked at Anno Domini and Gija and what these producers are doing, and definitely still try to model after those guys. Absolutely. Because I want to be where those guys are at.
Right.
But then also looking at some of the more traditional sort of marketers online and learning more about, being an entrepreneur and learning about guys like Pat Flynn and Russell Brunson and John Lee Dumas and even Tim Ferriss and all these guys that they know marketing on a whole nother scale, where it's like there aren't producers who have reached that level yet, you know? So to try to model after those guys and learn about, oh, okay, if I get people to sign up for my email newsletter, now I can send them out these emails that have a lot of value, a lot of information they want to know. But then by doing that, then now those guys are going to associate me with somebody who's an expert in my field, somebody who's a good guy and is going to help them out. And then when it comes time for them to maybe buy some music, they're going to think of me first. And you know, and you can hone in on that. And there's you can get real deep into email marketing and how to get people to opt in. And I can talk about that. I don't know if you want to get too deep into that, but that's
absolutely.
You know, learning that stuff has really helped. So yeah, so I'll get a little bit more into it. So pretty much my sort of funnel, main funnel to get people really onto my mailing list and sort of into my system or into my world. I use a lot of different channels, but the biggest one for me actually has been Twitter. And I've used a couple different programs. I used one called Crowdfire for a while, and then I recently switched over to one called Follow Liker, which is super effective. And basically it automates everything you can think of, you know, on Twitter or Instagram. And so what I do is I follow, using the software, I follow the people that are following other producers. Because for me, I know, hey, if you're following Anno Domini, there's a pretty good chance that you're an artist, and there's a pretty good chance that you're in the market for some beats. So it'll go in, it'll follow a bunch of people that are following those guys. And then what's going to happen is they're going to get a notification on their phone or whatever. Some percentage of them are going to check that and look at my music and look at my feed and follow me back. And then they get an automated direct message, and that direct message says something like, hey, you know, looking forward to working with you. Here's a link to 5 free beats so we can get started now. And then that takes them to an opt-in page. And I use a platform called ClickFunnels to build my opt-in pages, to build my membership area, which we can also get into, to build most of my all the fun stuff. Like I have legionbeats.com, which is cool, but all the fun stuff online that I do is on ClickFunnels. But anyways, that takes them to a page where it's designed so there's only one thing on that page. It's a landing page where, unlike a traditional homepage or something where there's all these links to different social media and all this stuff, there's just one thing they can do, which is click on that button, give me their email address so that I can send them, you know, those free beats or whatever. And that's what kind of kicks off the whole thing. And then there's a automated, they call it like a drip system, you know, with those emails where they get these really valuable emails where it's like, hey, how to promote yourself on YouTube, why you need to, you know, think about this, or, you know, all this stuff that trying to get into the head of an artist of what's really going to help them out. And then, like I was saying before, that also creates opportunities where they're just going to think of me in the first place, but also I can let them know, hey, I'm having a sale or whatever, and they're going to be a lot more likely to open that email because I've been providing all of this free value. So they're a little more likely to listen, you know, to the stuff that I'm talking about. So that's kind of the overview of how I kind of get people into my system. I'm up over, I think, like 8,000 subscribers now. And we're getting about 1,000 subscribers a month. And actually what's kind of cool is, so I got that program Follow Liker, and it was so effective for me. I thought, oh, maybe let me try offering this for other people. And that's kind of grown into this whole side business. And I've got this new business basically that I'm working on for that. It's called moremusicfollowers.com, and it's basically you can sign up, and I'm really going after that niche of artists or producers, and I kind of set up the whole thing for you, and then you can have that same type of funnel system, you know, that I'm talking about. So
essentially you're turning your music selling business into a music marketing business as well now, since you've seen some success, and now you're willing to take what you've learned and share that with the community, and that's awesome, man. So I guess what I'm taking out of this, and I hope, you know, everyone listening takes out of this, is that, guys, it's not always about asking for the sale, right? It's always about providing some value. It's not always take. You have to give, and I think that's a great model that you know that you're establishing, man. Congrats on all that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, and absolutely, just to quickly respond to that, yeah, that's what it's all about, and that's how I try to approach everything. So if it's social, if it's on Twitter, I'm not just tweeting out, hey, check out this beat, There's some of that in there, but it's also like, hey, check out this article, hey, check out this motivational quote, you know, stuff that they just want. because that's what's going to make people want to follow you and interact with you. And then it should be the same thing on email. It should be the same thing on Facebook, on Instagram, all these things. It's all about providing value to them, which is a great, sort of idea for an economy, because everybody wins. Instead of people getting bombarded with these commercials, basically, they're getting bombarded with great information, and people, the people who are selling things have to compete to provide the best information or the best content, and then that's who's going to win in the end. So I love that sort of concept of an economy.
So, with all of the, with all the saturation of artists, beat makers, producers selling online, and everyone selling, I think what you've modeled right there is a great way to kind of disrupt through all that noise, and be able to kind of really build a great business for you guys. Now let's get to some of the music, man. There's one project in particular, specifically really interested that you're working on, and that's Mr. Fab's new album. What's the status with that one, man? I mean, Fab is one of my favorite guys from the Bay, and I love his music, and I always felt like Mr. Fab was one of those guys that is truly underrated in regards to, one of the greatest lyricists coming out of the Bay Area, man. He's someone, I put in high regard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, you and me both. I mean, this guy is so talented. And it's interesting because a lot of people know him kind of from the hyphy days. Mm-hmm. And, he's a really smart guy, and he capitalized on that movement and became one of the leaders of that movement. But if you think that that's all he can do, or that's what he's best at, then you're definitely missing out on the big story. I mean, this is a guy who I'll put on an R&B beat, right? It was like just some guitar and a snap or something, just like pure R&B. And this guy will freestyle a song, like not just, the verses or kind of some melodies. He'll have a concept, he'll have the melodies, he'll have the verses and the hook, pretty much an entire song. This is insane. Like I've worked with a decent amount of songwriters, and there's very, very few who can do anything close to that.
Right.
So that's just one example, and another example is like on this album that I got to mix and master the whole album, which was a really cool experience. He's got crazy guest features, right? He's got, I mean, the list is incredible. He's got Kendrick Lamar, he's got Lupe Fiasco, he's got Raekwon, Keisha Cole, G-Eazy. I know I'm forgetting Snoop, Too Short, Devin the Dude.
Oh man.
I mean, and I know I'm forgetting a bunch. There's so many artists, so many huge features on there. But what's interesting is he does like on the song with Lupe Fiasco, he's doing this backpack kind of, conscious hip hop kind of style. He's got a track with all the dudes from Texas, Paul Wall and Bun B and Slim Thug and all those guys, and he raps like that.
Can we just stop the interview? Let's just stop the interview and press play wherever you are, and just I want to hear that, man, really bad.
Yeah, it's out. I mean, a few of the singles have already dropped. Probably by the time this podcast comes out, the whole album will have dropped. But It's actually really cool. Just the other day, Rolling Stone picked up, got some coverage on the Kendrick Lamar song. Mm-hmm. So that was in Rolling Stone. So that was pretty exciting to see that. So these songs are out there. If you Google them right now, you'll be able to find them.
Those guest features, those people that are featuring on his album, they're not there because, Fab is like, please get on my album. They're there because they respect that guy as a musician, as a songwriter, Absolutely. And he just demands that kind of, I can't wait. He's been definitely one of those bright spots out of the Bay, and I'm an East Bay kid, man, and it's just like, waiting for another kid from Oakland to really make it, but he's made it. He's had a lot of accomplishments, and I think this is kind of like that one album his fans are really, really waiting for right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm really just grateful to have been able to be such a big part of it, and to mix the whole thing, and it's great for the Bay. And also just to touch on what you said, as far as, those artists, why they're doing it, for them. Somebody said, was like, man, he must have cashed out like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, those features are crazy.
No way.
He didn't pay a dime.
I already know.
Those are his friends. All these guys are just guys that, just like you said, they respect him. They're friends with him. He didn't pay anything. These are just the people that he makes music with, and people that he hangs out with and that respect him. So, so it's really cool to be able to see that, and that's another great takeaway is just to learn how to interact with people to where, they're gonna want to do things for you because you provide that value to them. So, Mr. Fab has positioned himself as a guy where, you can call him and say, hey, can you connect me with this guy, or can you do this for me, or whatever, and he's happy to do it, and that's why these guys are happy to reciprocate. So it's sort of another example of what you were talking about with that creative value.
He's on a genius status, right? So when you're in there with him mixing and mastering, does he contribute with you? Is he someone that kind of pushes you a little bit to get better?
He does. He definitely does. He's definitely more focused on his side, right? Which is like the lyrics and the vocals and the concepts and all that kind of stuff. And so what's nice is he actually gives me a pretty good amount of freedom to do what I want with the mixes. For the most part, he'll definitely give me some feedback. But for the most part, I think he's been working with me for a while, and he sort of trusts that he likes the stuff that I do. So that was actually really cool, is that a lot of the stuff I kind of got to just do what I want, and then he'd either be there sometimes with me, or a lot of times I would just do the mix and then either send it to him or play it for him the next time he was at the studio, and for the most part he was pretty happy with it. So that was really cool, and really just that he had asked me to do it, I was pretty honored. So different artists are different. I've worked with artists who are super hands-on with the mixing, where they're basically, they are mixing it with me.
Right.
But for this particular one, it was a little bit more of him kind of letting me do my thing, and then maybe giving a couple notes. But yeah, pretty much let me do my thing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, I bet there was some sort of like responsibility from you, like you felt, okay, this guy is trusting me with this album. I can only imagine, you upping your confidence in your game while you're doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
It only benefits the next artist that you mix.
For sure. No, it definitely, I was like, shit, I got to pull out every little trick I've learned. I got to make this sound awesome. And it was just super exciting to work on, and to mix a Tech 9 verse and a B.O.B. verse and all these guys that I'm a fan of. So and it definitely stepped up my game, and it helps, because not that I'm doing anything different now, but just getting a little bit of notoriety from doing the project definitely kind of steps up. This is a pretty recent thing. I've already had a lot of people reach out to me, asking for mixing and mastering, specifically because they heard that I did this project. So yeah, it's been exciting.
Dope. So you guys also have, so name all the people that are part of the Legion, because I know you have some vocalists, you have some songwriters, you have other aspects of the game in your group, right?
Yeah. So it's it's kind of a funny thing. It's a little bit official and unofficial, and people kind of come in and come out.
Got it.
Over the years. So let me go through it a little bit. So the first guy I really started making beats with was a dude named Phil, who's actually down in LA. He's been down there now for about 6 or 7 years. So we were working very closely together when he was here. And now that he's down there, if I go down to LA, I'll work with him if he comes up here, and we'll send stuff back and forth. But that was the first guy I really partnered up with. And then there's a guy named Nate, who is probably the next guy. Yeah, definitely was the next guy to kind of come on board. And he is just an incredible musician. I mean, this guy, keys is definitely his number one.
Okay.
He's played piano since he was a kid, and just understands music theory and all that stuff. This guy literally plays 100 instruments, and that's not an exaggeration.
Wow.
His hobby is to go on eBay and, find a weird guitar nobody's ever heard of, and he'll order it, and they'll ship it over, and in like 2 weeks he'll know how to play it. Like, not just like make a noise on it, like he'll be able to really play this instrument. So he's just a musical genius, and if you listen to any of our stuff and there's any impressive chords or anything musically, it's not me, it's Nate, for sure. It's definitely Nate.
That's dope.
So that's kind of the guy, and he's been on for a long time. And for the most part, most of the stuff you hear is musically, as far as the beats go, is a collaboration between me and Nate, where I'm probably more focusing on the drums and maybe giving a little bit of the bigger picture of kind of what we're going for and giving him feedback, but he's playing most of the stuff. And then there's my buddy Seb, who goes by Nexus. Super talented, comes a little bit from that EDM background, and so knows, how to create synths and all this stuff that I don't get too deep into, but he's amazing at.
Right.
And then, adding in the vocalists, which is like Vidal Garcia and Jamilians, and even June B also is another guy I've been working with who's not located here, but I'll send him stuff. So, and it kind of goes on where there's people that we work with, on and off and maybe come in and out. But those are probably kind of the core guys. And I think for me, that's kind of, that might be my number one skill, is just finding people that are more talented than me and then figuring out how to get everybody to work together and have something that we can put out there. And I think that's something that shouldn't be underestimated is, if you're a producer, even if you're amazing, chances are there's somebody else that you can work with where together you're going to be that much better.
And I think that is right there, what you just hit on is probably the biggest factor in how fast you guys have been able to perform online the way you're performing right now, is taking this crew of different people that contribute to the music and putting that up online where, traditionally guys are just making beats by themselves, right? And they're putting that up. That's what the online community has always been for so long. And now guys like you that have that background in the studio, that know how to put in all these connecting pieces, taking that quality music, putting that up online is what sets you guys apart from everybody else, man.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And I think actually you had asked me earlier maybe how we'd been able to grow, and I didn't quite have the answer. And I think that's the answer. And it's actually now become where it's grown even more. And actually I should mention a couple more names, which is sort of this next generation now. I've got 3 guys now that kind of started. I sort of created a little bit of an apprenticeship kind of internship program. And I've got Audric, Richard, and Yanni are kind of the 3 new guys, and those guys are guys that I'm training to engineer, first of all, so that they can engineer sessions at the studio, so I don't have to actually be here doing all the sessions. But then Yanni, I just hired him on, we made it official, 25 hours a week, and he's focused on a lot of the stuff you're talking about, which is just, posting the beats up, responding to people on social media, doing some of the bookkeeping stuff. He also does, some of the mixes. He's a musical guy too. But having that team makes all the difference, where it's just, if I had to spend those 25 hours each week doing it, I couldn't be coming up with the next thing. I couldn't be working on beats. So that's a huge thing is working with the team. And then to go a little bit more into that, because that's what I've really been focusing on lately is figuring out ways to delegate things and systemize things, because I see, how much we've been able to grow in a short time. And I'm super excited about that. And I feel like there's so much opportunity. And I worry that if I'm stuck, implementing the systems I've already made all day, then I don't have time to come up with the next system.
Trust me, I've been there.
I can imagine. We could probably, I'd love to hear, more of how you do this. But, so I kind of learned a little bit about, like, in a traditional business, you have these things called SOPs, which I think is standard operating practices or procedures, whatever it is. You basically write out a detailed version of exactly what each process is. So if somebody signs up for a membership program, cool, you send them this email, you update the spreadsheet this way, you download the files to here, you do all this stuff. And so I've been learning how to create that, and that way I can train Yanni to do it.
You got to train me too, man, because I'm a scatterbrain over here. You got to train me. Hey,
we really can talk about this stuff, because this is really what I'm getting into. I'm happy to go into it more. The idea is that I can train Yanni to do it, and not only that, we have the system now where Yanni can train the next guy, and that's when you have a real business. Is when when you can step away for 3 months and your business grows. That's my goal. I'm not there yet, but that's what I would love to be at. And that's kind of my next hurdle, or the next kind of thing I want to get to.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, there's just so many moving parts in music, especially with all the different revenue streams. So hats off for you guys on organizing that process and figuring it out. And when you completely figure it out, let me know for sure. But yeah, man. So, all right, let's get into. We'll just get into last couple questions. You've given us so much insight about who you guys are, what you guys have done, the process of selling music online, and now with these new media and these other new revenue streams that are now kind of popping up, and we're helping to pioneer that process for producers. Is I've noticed that you guys have had some success with our YouTube Content ID program and being able to monetize on unauthorized versions of your tracks on YouTube and collect on all that ad revenue. As the kind of like the ad revenue world is among us, and it's coming, and content identification systems become smarter. The social web is going to be monetizable for original content creators. What do you feel? How do you feel about this whole new wave of streaming ad revenue and how it affects producers?
Oh, well, I can tell you how I felt the last couple emails I got from you guys with how much money we had made from our YouTube Content ID. I felt pretty excited. It's funny when I first signed up, and that was another thing, where that was sort of just this revenue that was just sitting on the table that we were completely missing. And I tried to approach it a little bit and kind of tried to hack around it a little bit, and had created like some CD Baby beat tapes, and you can kind of do it that way, but it doesn't really work. And then somebody wants to buy the exclusive, and now you have to take down the whole album, and it's just a headache and didn't really work that well. And so what you guys do at Beatstars is awesome, because we're already uploading these beats anyways because we're selling it through your marketplace. But then now it gets placed into all, the YouTube Content ID system. And then there's also, I don't know what SoundCloud is called, but they have a similar type of system, and I think a couple other ones. Yep. And so it's just this revenue that's just there. And if we hadn't signed up, we wouldn't be getting it. And it's funny because at first I think we got some notifications that we got like 3 cents or something. Okay, that's cool, great. And that might have been the SoundCloud one or whatever it was. And then all of a sudden, I got the one last month that was like, it was over 1,000. I think it was like $1,300, and I was like, holy shit, where did that come from? Right. And that was through YouTube, and YouTube is just a big, just huge for music. So that's been really huge, and I'm really excited about that. Yeah. And I think that can only grow as more and more people are uploading their music to YouTube and to these other platforms. That it just makes sense if you're somebody who, let's say, went onto our YouTube and pulled off the tag beat. Yep. And decided you're going to upload it. That's fine, because that's you get to use it, and that's good for you. And then we get to get our name out there a little bit more, and then also we get to profit off a little bit, which I think is perfectly fair, and I don't know that anybody would complain about that. So
what an exciting time to be a producer, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's cool. It's all this new stuff. It is really exciting.
Gabe, hey man, I've run out of questions. I'm sure I can think of more, but I appreciate all of your insight, your expertise. Thank you so much for joining us today. Any last words for the listeners?
Man, I'm a big fan of you and of Beatstars, and I'm honored that you hit me up for the podcast. So thanks for having me.
For sure. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. You guys can check out Gabe and the Legion on beatstars.com/thisisthelegion, I believe. And you guys are on Twitter as well at the Legion, or
This is the Legion. Everything is This is the Legion. So cool. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube /This is the Legion. Cool.
Follow these guys. They've got a lot of information. It looks like you're giving back a lot of information back to musicians, and you've already seen some success. So if you're an aspiring musician, you need to hit these guys up and follow them ASAP. All right, fellas. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll be back next week on the Beatstars Gurus podcast, and we're out.
Thanks, Abe.